So a few weeks back, I asked you guys to leave some questions about Star Wars Hunters across a few different places on my social media, that being on the Patreon, as well as in the Discord and in my community tab. And today, that is exactly what I'll be doing, answering all of your questions about Star Wars Hunters, as today we are exactly 2 weeks away from launch, which is pretty insane to say. Now, we're going to get stuck straight into it, and I'm going to start off with the Patreon, as that is just part of the Patreon over there, giving priority to stuff like this. So for future reference, if you guys are interested, be sure to go and check out the Patreon. There is a free tier as well. It isn't just paid, and the link to that is down in the description. Now, we have 2 questions here from Kleincore, so I'll answer these ones first. The first question is, could you do a breakdown of all of the characters thus far, along with their abilities and ultimates? I know they'll likely have reworks, balancing changes, etc., but it would still be interesting, as I know pretty much nothing about them minus appearances. Now, that is actually a very easy one to answer, because I do have an entire video that is going up in about 4 days from now that is going through every single hunter that will be in the game, at least the ones that are playable now in the soft launch, going through their playstyle, going through all of their abilities as well as their ultimates, and kind of helping you guys decide which ones you think you'll like once the game actually launches. So rather than trying to answer that in this video, because that would take quite a while, I do have a full video coming out on that in just a few days. As for the second question, he asks, another good one could be team comps such as the Wookiee and Sith female equals the Wrecking Crew, or alternatively maybe the Droideka and J3DI do not pair well together as examples. Now, that is a really good question, and it's kind of hard to think of off the top of my head, because to be honest, there's actually a lot of really good team compositions and different combinations you can have that really do work well together. Now, for those who don't know, the hunters are broken up into 3 different categories. There are the tank hunters, the support hunters, and the damage hunters. It kind of goes without saying that the damage hunters are pretty much out there to get kills and try and just deal as much damage as they can to deter enemies from capturing objectives and stuff like that. The support hunters are obviously more on the healing side of things, or even just supporting teammates in other ways, and then the tanks are obviously there to kind of absorb damage and allow your teammates to kind of use you as a bit of a human shield and get in there and capture those objectives. So realistically, if you have one of each of those types, so let's just say you have Groz, who is a tank, you then have maybe Zaina, who is probably the best healing hunter in the game, and then maybe you've got Amara Vex and Reeve, who are 2 really good damage hunters. A composition like that does work really well, where you do have someone from each different category. What I would say is that right now there are probably a few hunters who are a little bit overpowered, to be honest, those being Sentinel, who is a tank hunter, but he deals as much damage as pretty much any of the damage hunters as well, so he is definitely very useful in essentially any team composition. There is also Scorer, who is a healing or a support hunter. Her entire goal is just to heal teammates, but her blaster now from the recent update deals a heap of damage, and so you can play really aggressively with Scorer now and essentially just be dealing a heap of damage while keeping your teammates healed too. And then I would say when it comes to Amara Vex and probably Diago or Reeve, even maybe J3DI, all of those characters that I just mentioned, they deal a heap of damage too. So that composition that I just mentioned of Sentinel, Scorer, and then realistically just any other damage hunters, that is probably the best team composition you can have, simply because you've got a tank and a support hunter, but both of those ones that I mentioned in Scorer and Sentinel, they kind of deal insane damage themselves, and that is going to leave you with a very strong team composition. Now, that is it for the Patreon questions. Moving on to the Discord questions, we've got 3 here from Alice, Doug, and Jazza, who are 3 very good friends of mine. Now, Alice says, do you think the game has potential to pull in a big player base and maybe come to consoles eventually? The answer to this one is a very easy yes for me. I think this game will have an astronomical player base once it launches. It may not get there straight away, because I think people will always kind of be a bit skeptical about this game, just with all the delays and the fact that it is also primarily a mobile game. But I really do think that in 6 to 12 months, this game will probably have like 50 million players. You look at most other mobile games out there that do pretty well, especially the ones that are backed by publishers like Zynga, who are obviously very rich. Generally, most of those type of games end up with like 50 to 100 million players, if not potentially more. So I think the player base for this game is going to be absolutely huge. As for the part about consoles, I do think it could actually come to consoles. We all know that it is launching on the Switch, which is technically a console, so technically it's already kind of part way there. Obviously the Switch is almost a middle ground between like mobile gaming and, you know, proper console gaming in PS5 and Xbox Series X and stuff like that, so it isn't quite there yet. But the fact that it is already on the Switch, the fact that it's made in Unreal Engine, which is very common with other console games, I do think that is very much realistic that that could happen. Now, whether it does or not, that's obviously impossible to know. I think it just comes down to how successful the game is. If the game is like a bust for some reason at launch, then they probably wouldn't do that. Whereas on the flip side, if the game does get like 100 million players in the first year and they know that there's other markets there that they can bring new players in, then yeah, I think they would honestly be pretty stupid to not bring it to consoles. And I honestly think it would play pretty damn well on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. Now, the next question is from my man Doug, and he says, how does the gunplay stack up against Battlefront 2, knowing of course it's mobile and Switch, but for those who look down on mobile, does it exceed expectations? That is a very good question, especially the part of the end, because like I said, there is a bit of a stigma around mobile gaming, and don't get me wrong, I was kind of in the same boat before this game, and I've played a lot of Pokemon Go recently as well, over the last probably 2 years now. I always kind of looked down on mobile gaming just because it's like, it's not as high a quality as your, you know, AAA console and PC games, but I think it really does exceed expectations. It definitely exceeded my expectations. For me, it is the highest quality mobile game that I've ever played by a country mile. It genuinely does feel like I'm playing a console game on my mobile. It's kind of weird. I do play the game with a controller, so I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my phone realistically like it's just a monitor, and I'm sitting there playing with the controller. It does just feel like I'm playing it on a console with just a really tiny monitor. And obviously once the game is officially here, I'll be playing it on the Switch, and then I'll actually just be playing it on my regular monitor. As for how the gunplay stacks up against Battlefront 2, I'll be completely honest, Battlefront 2 in almost every metric is a higher quality game than Star Wars Hunters. That is to be expected. It's a AAA game. It's backed by EA and DICE, and it uses the Frostbite engine and stuff like that. So the Hunters gunplay and just general gameplay and stuff isn't on that level. But what I will say, considering how good Battlefront 2 was in terms of that, you know, the core gameplay, the Hunters gameplay honestly isn't far off. I actually think that especially you've asked specifically about the gunplay, I honestly think the gunplay is probably the strongest area of Star Wars Hunters. It is super rewarding. It feels very like smooth and fun to play. It doesn't feel clunky. It doesn't feel like you can't control your character well. It just feels nice and responsive and smooth, and it does feel really rewarding. If you have a good game, it just feels really good, if that makes sense. So yeah, stacking it up against Battlefront 2, it is just objectively not as good, but considering it is mobile and Switch, it is pretty damn close, which is actually pretty impressive in my opinion. Now, the last Discord question comes from my man Jazza, and he says, who are your favorite and least favorite characters to play as, and why? That is a very good question, and it's very tough to answer. I do have a few favorites, and at the moment I'm kind of just cycling between a lot of them. I don't know if I can pick one. I would probably say that historically Reeve and J3, the melee hunters, they have been two of my favorite. They're easily my most played over the last couple of years. They are both my highest leveled hunters. But recently, probably since I've been playing on controller on the phone, it has probably changed around a little bit. Scorer is really fun. She is, like I said, she deals good damage, but she's also like a support hunter, so you can heal teammates and stuff like that. She is essentially crucial to winning games. So I've really been liking Scorer. Diago is really fun as well. He deals really good damage. He's kind of got like it's almost a sniper rifle. It's not quite a sniper, but he just has like a high damage per shot type of hunter. I'm a big fan of Char, who is the Trandoshan as well. He's a lot of fun. And then I would say Amara Vex and Sentinel, they are probably two of my next favorites as well. So like I said, I can't really pick a specific favorite because they're all very different from each other and they're all very fun, but those are probably some of my favorites. In terms of least favorites, that's actually really tough because I don't think I have one. It would probably be Groz, just because he has kind of been nerfed a little bit recently. He is very, very tanky. He is obviously a tank hunter, but he just doesn't deal much damage. So I find it pretty hard to do well with him, at least the way that I try and play anyway. Maybe if I just play much more of a team role, I'd do a bit better, but trying to sort of be a tank and trying to get a few kills with him, I tend to kind of suck with Groz. So I'd probably say Groz is my least favorite, but it's weird because I actually really like Groz as a character. But in terms of, yeah, gameplay, I'm definitely not that good at playing as Groz. Now, moving on to the community tab questions, there's actually a fair few here, so I'll try and sort of rattle through these as quick as I can because I am definitely rambling on in this video so far. The first one we have is from Superman 1875, and he says, will the game come to PC or console? It looks fun. Like I sort of mentioned for Alice's question, I do think that is a very high possibility. In terms of PC, I think that should almost be guaranteed, and technically it is guaranteed because you'll be able to play through BlueStacks. So yeah, you definitely will be able to play on PC. It just might not be the official game, if that makes sense, as in like it's not going to launch on Steam. But yeah, like I said, for console, I think it is definitely possible. When you actually sign up to like register for news and stuff like that on the website, they ask what platform you usually play on, and it obviously has Android, iOS, and Switch, but those aren't the only options. It actually does have PlayStation, Xbox, and PC as well. So let's just say 100 million people signed up to pre-register. Obviously that's unrealistic, but if 100 million people did that and 90 million of them said that they play on, you know, console or PC, I'm sure Zynga would look at that and go, okay, there's a lot of interest in this game and 90% of players are on console, so let's port the game to console. So I think it's definitely a possibility, but again, it's kind of hard to tell right now. We just have to wait for launch, and I think 6 to 12 months after launch, we'll kind of be able to tell whether it will eventually make its way to console or not. The next question is from Blues2339, and he says, what is the best hunter in the game right now? That is a very tough one. For me personally, it is probably Scorer. Her blaster just deals so much damage. It kind of has like passive damage where you'll get damage on the hit, but then it deals a little bit of damage after that too. And honestly, on certain hunters, it only feels like it takes like 3 or 4 shots to kill them because it's a kind of slow rate of fire weapon. And on top of that, she is super quick, so you can kind of get away. You know, if you're taking damage, you can get away pretty quickly. She doesn't have much health, so you can die fairly quick. But like I said, she's a healing hunter, and so therefore you can just heal yourself pretty easily. And so I would probably say Scorer, but I think Sentinel is definitely up there as well. The Stormtrooper, he is a tank, but he honestly he probably deals the most damage in the entire game, to be honest. The next question is from Reem, and it says, do you think this game will be really fun and take off, or will kids still just play Brawl Stars? I do think this game will be really fun. I've been playing it for years. I've been playing it since 2021, so I don't have to guess that it's fun. I know for a fact this game is so much fun, and I think once people try it, they will realize that, especially when it comes to playing on a controller or playing on the Switch, because obviously not all of us want to be playing like a handheld shooter. That's just not as fun for me personally. But I think once people play it with a controller or on the Switch, I do think people are going to go like, damn, this game is actually really solid and it is really fun. So I think the game will take off. I honestly will be shocked if by, I don't know, Christmas time this year, there isn't like 15 to 20 million players. I literally think this game will be absolutely enormous. I said in a previous video, I think this could in 10 years end up as the most hours played in any Star Wars game ever. I literally believe that, because I just think this game has got absolute insane potential, and we know with mobile games, they get backed, they get supported for like 10 years. Usually look at Galaxy of Heroes. That's been out, I think, around 7 or 8 years now, maybe even a little bit longer. And you look at that, that has also got 100 million players that have downloaded it, and it's still, you know, they're still getting content to this day. I just saw something on Twitter this morning about a new character being added. I think Obi-Wan just got added from like the Phantom Menace. So I definitely think this game will take off, and I think it will be here for quite a long time. Now, lastly, we've got 2 very important questions here that are pretty much the same things. I will just kind of answer them both at the same time. These are from Leslie and Michael. Leslie says, are purchases only cosmetic, or do they give an advantage? And then Michael says, is it pay to win? That is essentially the same question, and it is definitely a very good question. So we all know with mobile games, for some reason, pay to win is just fine. I don't know why that is. When it comes to console or PC games, pay to win is like, those games get just review bombed, and like, look at Battlefront 2, it literally got banned in countries for having like loot boxes and stuff like that. So I think on the console side of things, we do not stand for pay to win, and that has all but been removed from shooters and just games in general these days. But for whatever reason, mobile games just get away with it. I don't know why that is. That's always kind of been the case. The good thing with this game that you guys do not need to worry about, it is not pay to win. The only thing you can really buy in this game is cosmetics, whether that be like hunter skins, you can buy weapon skins, you can even buy stuff like emotes and stuff like that, stickers and stuff like that. So there is no element of pay to win. Now, at launch, and I hope they don't sort of bring this stuff back eventually, but at or I should say the soft launch in 2021, it was a little bit similar to Battlefront 2, where you could unlock the hunters for free, or you could pay to kind of get them quicker. Now, that isn't necessarily pay to win, but it's definitely teetering on the edge of it. And obviously, if there's a hunter that is just completely overpowered and you can buy them straight away rather than playing like 10 hours to unlock them, that is borderline pay to win. And so it actually was kind of like that at launch, and the community absolutely flamed Boss Alien and Zynga for doing that, and they rapidly changed it. I think in the very next update, which to be fair was like a couple months later, but they changed it in the first chance they could really get, and it hasn't been that way since. So that is something you guys don't really need to worry about. At least, again, maybe they, I hope they don't, maybe they go back to that at the, you know, the official launch. I'm not too sure, so I can't confirm that until the game is actually here. But at least how it is anyway right now, it is not pay to win. The only stuff you can really buy, the only stuff in the store is just the skins and stuff like that. There's also like the arena pass, which technically you can buy and all that kind of thing. So there's no pay to win. It's not like you buy, you know, the equivalent of star cards in Battlefront and they make you way better and you can only buy them with real money. There's nothing like that in the game, luckily, at least not right now. And you can rest assured that if there is anything like that at launch, I will be flaming the absolute living fuck out of Zynga for doing that, and we'll be starting a revolution until they change it. So luckily, no pay to win, at least not right now anyway. But that is going to do it for all of the questions. Thank you guys for all of those questions. They were very good questions from all of you guys, and hopefully that gives a little bit more transparency and, I guess, information about Star Wars Hunters. But that is going to do it for this one. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the Force be with you always.